Hey, what's up, guys? I will give it a sec and we'll get rolling. Let's see, as you come in, to be sure to say hello. Pop something into the little chat area. What's up, DJ from Charlotte? How's it going, sir? Thanks so much for jumping on. Saw your question earlier. We can get more into that if we get a chance to. Got started a little later than I wanted to, but yeah. Before we get started, hit me with a like, hit me with a comment, and we will get rolling. Christopher, how's it going? Mr. M. Sway, we got it. Yeah, man. I'm glad that we get to interact quite a bit on the comments, but we don't get to hang out live. So glad to have you here. Miguel, really glad to have you here. As you guys that have been on lives know, I am a bit of a stickler. I do feel like I had to go through a lot of pain and heartache to get some of the things that I share with you guys. And all I ask is that you hit a like and hit me with a hello. It's like you're literally in my house now, in my house. So it's like, you come in the house, just say hello, man. Don't just bust up in the house and not hit me with a hello. All right, let's jump in. Let's jump in. So one of the things that I've been doing over the last couple of months has been this whole $1 million brain process that a lot of times I'm taking clients through subconsciously. And I feel like it's the most important part of making this stuff work. And I think it applies to anything. If you're somebody that's just looking to buy a single business, if you're somebody that's even wanting to start a business, I think it's crucial that the mindset is right. And I think that things can be a lot easier than people make them just because of the way that we're taught to think. So today we're going to be talking about a couple of things. We're going to talk about the time value of money. Sherry says she's busting through the front door. Just feel free. But some folks are just gonna bust in, not hit a like, not say hello. But come on in. Everybody's welcome. Everybody's still welcome. What's up, Sherry? Great to have you on again. We also got Kalia Bradley, flight school. I'd love to get some flight lessons. All right. So the point of today's call is a couple of things. One is understanding the time value of money. This is something, when we talk about all the things that we're not taught coming up, this is one of those concepts that changed my life. It just changed the way I look at money. It changed the way I treat my money. And it's something that, just like all of the basics, like obviously, it's absolutely ridiculous that we're not taught how to balance a checkbook in high school, but we're taught photosynthesis. Like that just, it's like, great. I'm glad that I know how photosynthesis works, but I'm not using that nearly as much as, budgeting and that kind of thing in my day-to-day life. We're not taught about taxes. So it's illegal for me not to pay taxes. We literally know that everybody has to pay taxes, but we're not taught how that works, how to file our taxes. Like those kind of things are just the basics. But it's pretty obvious that if we're not taught the really basic things, what else are we not being taught? And I think we take it for granted that this whole money thing, that there really is this whole world out there that we just don't get any exposure to. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then who a little bit about who you have to become. I think that achieving any goal, whether it is becoming a basketball player, great basketball player, or a wealthy person or financial success, I think it's a lot easier if you're becoming the person that you need to be, as opposed to trying to stay the same person and then apply some strategies to that. So I want to start there, just because obviously the Kobe thing has been top of mind. That was just like a huge bummer. But one of the things that I admire about him was he had absolutely no shame in wanting to be Michael Jordan. And I think that we lose sight of the fact of like, man, whatever you want, like try to become that person. And Kobe just had absolutely no shame in like, I want to be Michael Jordan, like literally started emulating his voice patterns. Like it's one thing to say, I want to be that person on the court, but down to like listening to his voice, emulating his voice patterns, and obviously they're showing a ton of video right now around just Kobe and his life. And one of the most amazing videos that you can look up, it's him where you have side by side Michael Jordan doing one of his epic plays or epic moves and Kobe, and he just memorized every little thing from the exact point on the court. Just every move was exactly like Michael Jordan. And I think a lot of people are like, oh no, I'm going to go down my own path. I'm going to be me. I'm going to, do this on thing. But it's like, hey, this guy is the greatest. This guy is the greatest. Let me emulate what exactly he's doing, and so a lot of what I've been talking about here is looking at the greatest, like looking at the greatest money makers. And so the reason I talk about Goldman Sachs a lot is because it is just a pure money making machine. It's not based on some genius, lucky idea. It's not based on one person being an amazing genius like a Mark Zuckerberg or like a Steve Jobs or a Bill Gates. And most of the time, when you're seeing billions and billions of dollars, there's this one amazing genius that is genius and a little bit of luck and right timing and all that. But that's what we see is, with the Goldman Sachs, it's like, it's not that. It is just a money making machine. And so what I try to do, and just what I talk about on this channel is what I think is a smart move, is the same thing that Kobe did, which is, okay, if you want to make money, I mean, and there are plenty of people that are like, hey, that's not my path or whatever. But if you're looking to make money, then it's not about the really cool thing. It's not about what's the most famous thing. Like, most of the stuff that I talk about here on this channel is not going to get a million views. It's going to be very boring concepts that, like the video I just released, don't even make sense when you first hear them, because it's out of the realm of what we're normally taught. And so just by that very nature, if you check out that video of the message from Andrew, it's like, man, I listened to that for those first couple of $1 million brands. It's like, dude, this makes no sense. And so I 100% get that. And so this isn't a popularity thing. It's just like a real reality thing. So I think that's probably the first little concept, is understanding when I say becoming somebody else, like, what does that mean? And the truth is that we're made up of a bunch of habits and loops, essentially. For even just the most basic things, we pick them up when we're young, and then we kind of continue through those paths. Um, and if you want to get something different, it takes being somebody else. So you think about like the music we like, something very simple like, okay, I like this type of music. I know for me, hip hop struck me when I was young, and it's been my thing. Like I love it. Like it just, it's what I love. But I'm not dumb enough not to think that if I were a white kid in suburbia, which now obviously hip hop is huge there, but back in the 90s, Nirvana, rock, all of that was a lot bigger. And so that would probably be something I would stick with. And it's one of the things, the types of movies you like, it becomes this loop that gets reinforced and reinforced and reinforced to the point that it becomes difficult to be open to anything else. Like I have to really force myself. Like I'm doing something now where I'm trying to discover different music. I'm in another country. I'm going to different countries, getting used to listening to their music. And my initial reaction is just like, this is not my kind of thing. And that's kind of the same thing that even Andrew was talking about. It's like, nah, like that's not what I do. That's not me. And so the bottom line is you really have to become a different person in order to like the kind of things that the people that you want to be like are going to like, and the concepts and all of that. With as you go back through the Million Dollar Brain videos, as you think about some of the concepts that we're going to chat through today, keep in mind that the first time you hear it, you may have that same initial reaction that I have when I hear some new reggaeton or salsa song, or the type of movie that I'm not really into, and it's almost becoming a different kind of person because all you're doing is following those loops, and it's really, really tough to change those. And so we have money loops, and we've got these norms, and it's as simple as, when I'm talking about being a financier, when I'm talking about investing, when I'm talking about creating a fund, the biggest opportunity, one theme is it's something nobody else is doing. When you go to a little get together at a house and you ask about the things that everybody else is doing, like, hey, do you know anybody who's trying to become an influencer on Instagram? It's like, oh yeah, everybody wants to be an influencer. Do you know anybody who wants to, it's hot in Colombia, by the way. But do you know anybody who is investing in real estate? I talk about that. Like, yes. Do you know anybody who's investing in real estate overseas? No. So that tells you, okay, there's probably more opportunity there. Do you know anybody that's investing in stock? Yeah. Do you know anybody that's investing in the equity of small businesses? No. That means that there's more opportunity there. So we talked before about going wholesale and moving away from retail convenience store and investments. And the bottom line there is, if you're somebody who goes to a convenience store and buys some chips, you expect to pay a lot more than if you buy the box of chips at Costco. And so, today when we're talking about time value of money, there's a little bit of that. So I want to explain this whole concept of time value of money and why this was a huge impact for me and just changed the way that I see money. Before we get into it, though, I think one of the things is that I want to include in this theme, outside of just the concept, is you challenging yourself to switch the questioning of what do you want to do next, and switching that to who do I want to be next. And I think that question gets more to the heart of what's going to have like lasting change, and allows you to start seeing some of those loops in your thinking, some of those loops in your actions that get you some results that you may not want. So let's talk about the APY. So when we go to a bank and they have this sign up that says that you're going to get a 2% return on your money. Well, that is not an actual interest rate return. It's a marketing scheme. And so you'll see it's an APY, and they kind of put that out to the side of it because it's not a true return. And the reason is because they aren't giving you that interest each month the way that you would if you were getting interest from anything else. So everything else, you're going to get interest each month. And if you are getting interest each month, you should basically be making interest on that interest. And so the return would be a lot higher than what they're actually even promoting. So the funny thing is when you calculate what they give you, it's actually less than the 2% or whatever they tell you that they're giving you, because they're essentially giving it all to you at the end. So you've lost the return that you should have gotten. And one of the important things to understand is that inflation is a real thing. Um, there's a report that was talking about just some of the things with the World Economic Forum, and one of the interesting things is they were talking about America in particular, and what we can buy in America today in 2020 for $1, people could buy in 1920 for 2 pennies. And so you may think like, oh, that's so long ago, and but there are people. I have a distant relative that's 100 years old, so that person has seen things go, or that 2 cents, what they could get back then, turn into that. So that is a really important thing. Oh no, let's see. We're getting some let me switch something real quick, guys. I'm gonna come over here because I did not realize I'm getting a notification that my battery may die. And instead of waiting for it to get close, just gonna go ahead and move over. I'm excited to get into some of y'all's questions about all this stuff. All right, let's see. This is better. Cool. All right, since we had a little bit of a break, I'll take a look at some questions and then we'll get back into this. How do you bank with a private equity company? I don't know if you would. I don't. Then this is good, so you can come back and clarify. If you have a private equity company, are you asking if you have a private equity company, where would you bank, or who would you bank with? Are you asking you want to bank or put your money with a private equity company? KOG says study the greatest moneymakers. Absolutely. What is up, Layana? If I said that correct, hopefully. Language. That's not the norm. Love it. Emily, what is up? Thanks for popping in. Who do I have to be next? I love it. How you doing, Ace? His name is Errol. I'm currently finishing my last semester at Columbia. What is up? I almost went to Columbia, but they didn't give me enough money, man. So I had to go to Colgate. Who else we got? Amor, ¿puede darme una servilleta, por favor? Gracias. Y una botella de agua. All right, so let's dig back into this. Plug any questions. No. So a big part of this is understanding that when you put money or you have a certain amount of money, it is going into a bucket. And you've got a few things that can happen within that bucket. So for most people, their bucket has a hole in it. And the hole is three things. It's inflation is kind of sipping out some of that. The other thing is opportunity cost. So when you get into time value of money, there's an opportunity cost. And so I think one of the concepts there that's important is, it's not the difference of, there's so many things, but it's not just the difference when you're talking about I'm getting 2% and the bank is going to, for my car loan, charge me 9%. That's just the tip of the iceberg. We had the testimonial recording with Suresh where we went into, all of the ways that it's not just 9%. That 9% really becomes a effective return of 12%. And then, the fact that they're getting some of that principal while still making the 12%, they're able to take that cash and put investments. So it's becoming a 24%. So there's a lot that goes into that. And the more you understand this, it's really great for the banks that people don't get this. And even me explaining it isn't enough. But the more that you do really pay attention and study this stuff, you will refuse to let your money sit in a bucket that has a hole in it. Whether that hole is just cash and it's sipping out through inflation, whether that hole is the opportunity cost, because even if your money's sitting here and it's like, oh, I'm making this amount of money, but you're not making what you could be making, that in itself as a whole. And then you have the actual losses. And that was one of my challenges, because I know that, when we buy businesses, I expect a certain number. I made the video a little while back that, all of my portfolio companies are going to go out of business. I understand that, no business, none of the businesses that we see, none of these amazing businesses behind me, all of them are going to go out of business at some point. So if you know that, there's a certain amount of risk. We're taught that if you're going to invest, that there's a certain amount of risk that's going to come along with that. But then you look at a company like a Goldman Sachs that is an investment company. They're an investment bank. They work within investments, but they have, in their over 100-year existence, had only a couple of quarters where they didn't make money. So that tells you, like, okay, maybe you can set things up where you don't have to lose. And so again, looking at those of, man, I don't really want to have those times where I'm losing money. And I think, you leveraging those strategies. And when I look at my financier portfolio compared to even the great returns that I get with investing in businesses, the financier portfolio just, there are just so many ways to make sure that you don't lose money. So that's what we're looking at when we're looking at that bucket. And what I want to encourage you guys to do is, I think that understanding money, understanding investing and making more money with your money is actually more important than becoming an entrepreneur and making money. And this is my big challenge. This is my big, the like Andrew talked about, like, this is the thing where it's like, dude, this guy makes no sense to me. So stick with me just a sec so I can explain this. But essentially, let's say you do have a bucket where you're losing money to inflation, you're losing money to opportunity costs, you're losing money because you don't know how to structure things so you don't have to take risks, like a Goldman Sachs. And though in that bucket, as soon as you make a dollar, some of that dollar is going away. Now, let's say that you've got a bucket where it's a magical bucket and it turns that dollar into more money. So every time that you put a dollar in, it's actually generating. So you put a dollar in, it's generating more dollars. You get another dollar. Now, both of those dollars and the other dollars created before are making more dollars. It's literally the opposite of what's happening with the bank, where they're doing that and you're not able to take advantage of that in your own portfolio. So if you can build that bucket, it's worth having that bucket first before you start making money. Because as soon as you go out and you get the entrepreneurial skill and you start to put money into that bucket, some of it's disappearing. And so you're on this treadmill, and that's where most people live their life without even knowing it. Most people live their life on the treadmill of having a bucket that's dripping out. It's just bills come out, inflation's coming out, capital losses sometimes are coming out, huge opportunity costs are coming out. And instead of the opposite, which is, it's just not worth making money until you have a bucket that's going to turn the dollars that you put in there through your hard work and turn that dollar into more. And so the basic concept here is, if you're going to do something, if you're going to take an action to make a dollar, then you shouldn't want to then lose that dollar. You should want that dollar also to be able to take action and work in the best way for you. Now, the important thing here, as we've been talking about this whole time, is understanding a few things. When a bank goes out of business, it is a shocker. I did a recording yesterday on for a mastermind where we're talking about doing asset-based loans, doing equipment leasing, doing AR financing. It's things that aren't very exciting, but because I buy businesses, it's things that I ended up investing in just as a part of the deal structures of what I was doing. I had deal structures where at the end of the day, I had to do additional things. We just did a deal where we were buying the business, but then I invested in some royalty financing that was in that business. Royalty finance is another really amazing strategy, something that financiers and investment banks and merchant banks will use. But when a bank goes out of business, it's like unreal. Like we talked about, we know that the average business, those companies go out of business all the time. But banks just don't. So again, that's one of the things where you want to notice. It's very weird to me that we know every other business has this huge failure rate. Banks don't. Even outside of the huge bank, I'm not talking about, like the huge banks did some dumb stuff and they get bailed out. I'm talking about the mom and pop out in the middle of nowhere in the country, no help from anyone, just family owned little bank. Those things do not go out of business. So we want to ask ourselves, like, hey, like maybe I should study what they're up to, because that doesn't happen in any other industry. So that's something to pay attention to. The other thing is, like I talked about before, looking at the things that nobody else is doing. That's where you're going to get that bucket that is making more money, because you don't have the competition, and it's looking beyond the things that we're taught. I think when we talk about this loop of, oh no, like you can't do that. I know KLG mentioned the buying businesses and real estate in emerging countries. It's funny to me that, I guess a great example would be, let's say you have a restaurant that's in a town, it's doing really well. You go there, it's a line out the door, and it's making a ton of money. And the owner is like, man, this thing is making a ton of money. I want to get top dollar for you to invest in it. And it can't really make any more money, but they want $1 million for you to invest and get a portion of that business. Now, on the other end, you've got another town that's a similar demographic, and they've bought the same franchise that company is in the first example, and they say, man, like you can have half this business. I just want 100,000, because they don't have anything yet, but it's got the same potential. There's all of this upside, and you can get into that business. That's really how I compare emerging countries to America. Everybody, this is already the great thing. There's literally a line out the door of America. And it's like everybody wants to go there. It's really great, but the upside there is really been reached. when you compare it to an emerging country. So the funny thing for us is it's not like we have a monopoly on capitalism. Like one of the reasons America is so great is that just we embrace capitalism to another level. And now we've laid out this map, we've laid out the blueprint, and there are the majority of countries on the earth are also capitalist, and it's not this secret. We're just not taught. The same. It is really funny. The same way that the media in America portrays other countries, when you come to other countries, that's how they portray us. And it's like, it's this thing where it's a lot of propaganda on all accounts. All of these other cities are catching up to us. And there's a lot more upside. So Costa Rica is a great example. It's the first country I ever went to. It's on an exchange program. So I had a family there that I stayed with. And so I went back and I spent some time with them in my 20s. And I remember seeing real estate there. And I was like, man, I wasn't even a real estate investor at this point, but I'm like, you can get real estate this cheap on the beach. So this is over 20 years ago. And it was already increasing. I remember going back and it was like, okay, it's more. And now the prices are unreal. And so there's not that kind of upside that you can get in emerging countries like you can. I mean, it's not the kind of upside that, like what is available in emerging countries in the U.S. just because we're basically growing with inflation. We've got 5% increase. 3% of that is inflation. That's not this huge appreciation. So we got to go and try to figure out all of these tricks and, find the area that we do think is up and coming. Meanwhile, there are whole countries, there are whole cities that are growing. So that's the thought there. There's basically not a monopoly on opportunity and capitalism in America, and there's a lot of opportunities outside of it. The other thing is there's a lot of opportunity in doing in the US the things that nobody else is doing, and that is investing in small businesses. But I talk a lot, and the reason I'm putting a big focus on this financier strategy isn't to say that buying a business isn't a great idea. Buying a business is a great idea because very few people are thinking about it or doing it, but nobody's doing financier stuff. When I go into a business, I can determine exactly the terms I want, exactly the way that I'm going to structure the investment. I can make it so that it's very little downside. And then once I put those deals together, I can easily go and raise the capital because nobody else can get exposure to those kinds of investments. So those are the main concepts here. It has been lovely. Oh, Andrew, I talked a lot about you on this, and I put up that video. Check that out. Unfortunately, I do have a meeting that I have to go to. But I'll read out a couple of these. Puede traerme mi teléfono está acá, en el piso. Sí, necesito escribir. Puede, hello. Hi. Let me check my appointment real quick. You guys can put up a couple of. Cool. Say I'm running 5 late. All right, so buy me 5 minutes to do some quick run through question and answer. How you doing, Ace? All right, we got the Columbia. Not enough room in the first deal. Gotta go where the room is. Exactly, room to grow. Exactly. Andrew says, of the lessons you've taught, the deal-making mindset, the focus on cash flow, and questioning everything, huge. Questioning everything like Leonardo da Vinci example made the biggest shift. And that's a lot of, I mean, really, if you nail down this whole $1 million brain thing, it's just that the $1 million brain is questioning everything, and it's tougher than it sounds though. Like that's the tough part, is there's not a easy way to explain it, and that's why it's kind of been this 10-part thing to kind of explain to you guys all of the different places. And obviously, I'm focused on finance, but the bottom line is, it's bottom line. It sounds, maybe a little hokey, but it's a matrix. Like, we are in this matrix, and we're taught how to see things, and things become so much easier when you can see past what you're told to see. And so once you get used to just like, okay, why is this way? Well, how can I change this? Where's the opportunity that lies behind what they're telling me? It changes everything, and it took me in a lot of cases, when I'm talking about, man, like, actually having a fund is a lot better than buying a business. Actually being the financier is a lot better than going out and trying to be an entrepreneur. Actually doing real estate I was doing real estate in the US. I'm like, oh man, like this doesn't work well compared to this or that. But actually doing real estate deals overseas is incredible. My hotel deal is incredible. That those are the things that come through questioning. KLG would love to talk more about international acquisitions and working together. Absolutely. Shoot an email to Sam at dealmakersinstitute.com. He'll get us connected. What would it be? What would be looking to acquire a loan company? So I love, there's a lot of really cool things that are happening right now. The funny thing is, I don't think you would even need to acquire a loan company. I think the difference, and it's kind of what I talk about, even when it comes to something. If I were going to start something, if you're going to start something and you're like, hey, I'm thinking of starting a model that's similar to a bank. Well, that makes a lot more sense than anything else, because nobody's doing that, because the success rate is so huge if you're really studying what their strategies. But yeah, well, I'm going to be talking a lot more. It's a pretty deep thing to get into, but I'm going to be doing a lot more on this. So don't fret, but also feel free, if you want to connect personally, reach out to Sam. He'll get us connected. Errol Z, who can I reach out to join the private equity program? Sam. So Sam at Dealmakers Institute. I am going to put it here below. And we can go over which program would be the right fit for you and all that. Financier, you are selling money and the deals come to you. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's one of the biggest shifts, is you don't have to go out searching for deals. Like, I can land in a country and make a few connections and start getting deal flow and cherry pick the very best of those. And it's so funny to me, like, it's just thinking, guys, for me to really communicate how deep this is. But it's hilarious to me that somebody thinks, okay, I can go into business selling whatever. I can go into business and I'm gonna get into the mic business. So I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna buy these mics and I'm going to sell them. There's somebody that makes mics and I'm going to get into the mic business. If you told somebody that you're going to do, it's like, oh, that's interesting. Like, what's your angle? And what's going to be great about the mics, whatever. I'm going to get in the water business. With any of those things, that's totally normal. It doesn't mean that you've got to start a manufacturing company and make each part of the mic and all of that. But when we say we're going to sell money, for some reason, like, oh no, I can't sell money. Like, I can't do that. I don't have the money. Well, you don't have the mics. You don't have the water. Like, of course you don't. Any business, you don't have the thing that you're going to sell. You go and you get it, just like with any business, guys. It's all thinking. I got to run. Always a pleasure. Hopefully this was valuable. I appreciate y'all jumping on, man. I got to do more of these. I enjoy doing them once I do. Thanks. Later.